the work on Imba 2 is ongoing, and Sindre will hopefully talk about it soon. And yeah, so he's been doing most of the development, and he's also been doing a lot of great work recently, documenting a lot of stuff. And we also have some really cool things down in the pipeline that are going to be public after a while.
Excellent.
Like,
I'm looking forward.
A Scrimba course, hopefully this year, but who knows? Sindre, does your mic work now? Could you do a mic test?
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
So Elores just joined. He's new to Imba, and he was telling me how he learned about Imba and some of his background. So he's coming from a Python background, and he's not happy with what's available in the JavaScript ecosystem.
Yeah.
And Imba was looking appealing with regards to the benchmarks it's listed in.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the bi-weekly meeting, usually we go through the topics. So me and Sindre talk a while before, ask each other how it's going before the meeting starts. But Sindre, do you want to change any of the topics, or maybe you, Elores, you have a topic you would like us to cover?
Not much. Eventually, if you can say a couple of words about Imba rollup, which for the moment, at least for my own needs, looks very tight. So I cannot easily extend it with some additional plugins. So that is a topic that interests me personally. And then, yeah, also speaking a little bit about documentation, I see quite a lot of chapters in there still empty. Maybe we could just copy over some of the text from the version 1, at least to have something for newcomers.
Yeah. I'm not sure. There are quite a few topics that aren't really the same. So we have to just look at what there isn't that much documentation for version 1. So we have to look at what we do have. And I definitely agree that we should fill in as much as possible, because right now it's just the documentation is still really messy. Like there are tons of sections that are meant to be filled in at some point, and we haven't really structured the whole documentation effort that well yet.
So what if we go through the documentation, because these things weren't there last time, I think. Like last time I was in Styles, or I've been there recently, but during the previous meeting, these tabs were not there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I think I have a development version that is slightly different as well, but I just started to play around with finding a better way to organize it, where it was easier to get to where you wanted to go. And I'm still not 100% satisfied, but I think the tabs concept solves some of the problems I had.
Just a quick feedback on the tab concept. Idea, at least for me, I usually click on the bottom right, always next, 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 next. And I find it rather convenient if that next button also brings me through the tabs, because otherwise I might be missing some content.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually just a glitch from adding the tabs, but I definitely agree.
Yeah, I'll just note it down.
Yeah.
So I've been using the aliases, and I created flashcards. Probably the only person in the world who's created Imba 2 flashcards. Yeah. So that I remember this, and I think it's actually good. But I think for beginners, like I really do think we need to walk through the I know you say layout just for the D acronym, but when I think layout, I'm including both the flexbox and the grid.
Yeah.
And I think we really should have lots of examples just showing you these, like how would you use this shorthand here? Like when you're seeing this for the first time, one thing that I mentioned it earlier today is like, I had like, it's not easy to see how do you combine these? Is this a separate thing? But after using it, you're going to understand it. So I think we need more examples just showing common usage. Sorry. Did someone say something?
I think Loris said something. Maybe his mic is just not muted.
Sorry, I will mute my mic. That is better. I don't like to interfere. Sorry.
Yeah, it would be good if you
Yeah,
mute,
but
unmute.
please just unmute and ask questions, or you could
Hmm.
ping in the chat if you have questions. That
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
try to
yeah.
resolve.
That's
Yeah.
good. So I think we should have more examples because it's not obvious until before you use it.
So yeah, that's obvious. I agree. And ideally, we should obviously have examples for every CSS property. But until then, because it's a huge job, I think we should just make sure that we link to MDN and other resources that actually document the various properties, and just make the, because like if you know the alias and you know what the alias is for, then you could read up on that property many places. I definitely think we should eventually have good documentation for styling in general, but that's quite a big job, like to copy, essentially clone the whole CSS part of MDN.
Yeah, I get that part, and I totally agree that we shouldn't try to clone it. But like, if we look at this, for example, this common example where you're setting the display to flex and the column part here, this is
Yeah.
like highlighting this like for a beginner. I think that's valuable.
Yeah.
And but I'm not gonna. It's just that's what I noticed when you're trying to use these aliases. Like you end up with, oh, okay, how do I combine them? Like after using it, yeah, it's probably just a short time span.
Yeah. But I'm also actually going to, I'm rewriting some of the Imba document parser now to just make it actually work and make it much more reliable for both VS Code and for the web. And then I'll add the stuff where you can actually hover over any alias and see the full version of it, and also click to go directly to the documentation for that alias and stuff.
Nice. And another thing I was thinking about is the contrast in the colors. Like the Open IDE thing looks really nice, but like you see the data binding here on the
Yeah.
left-hand side, it's like I don't see that stuff. Like I don't see that when I go in here. So when I was looking for an example for data binding after being in an Imba V1 code base for a while,
Yeah.
then like I struggled to come up with to make this connection. And I think that has to do with like I just couldn't see this sidebar. It's just not visible when you. It's too subtle.
Yeah, but that's another question. Like we can definitely talk about that. But there is a question. I think someone chatted. Maybe there was a question here.
I don't see the chat. Where's the chat?
Uslav love aliases. Yes. Yeah, I see the chat. So my point was, the IDE and the examples in the IDE are really stale now. Like they're pretty old. I haven't really gone through them after writing a lot more of the documentation. Not sure how much we should focus on the IDE directly or versus the documentation itself, because since we created the Open IDE thing, we have also added like inline previewable examples directly in the documentation, and we can also easily allow editing them directly in the documentation. So if you go, especially if you go to something like events on the side here, events, and go to modifiers at the top.
Yeah, no. So modifiers.
And can you try to refresh the page and see if you can get the service worker to work? Yeah,
it's working now.
This is a pretty good example of when we get search to work really well, where you can actually just press F or something wherever you are. Nice. And start writing something, and then see all the results and jump to the various documentation parts. Then I really like this sort of documentation as opposed to being inside of the IDE all the time. Because here you can actually see lots of different small snippets and the examples right by it.
Yeah, this is definitely better. It's easier to see, and you can eyeball it really fast.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You have the...
Yeah, I haven't really started to document or show any examples for responsive design yet. That's also something we should do. And then it will be really nice to actually show the inline examples and allow people to, you can if you hold all the way to the right, I think you can resize the with, like, not all the way, but the
you mean here?
Yeah, then you can resize it to, if you drag it further up, like further, no, further to the right. It will actually expand to a desktop size essentially and zoom out.
Yeah, I see.
Easily, yeah.
Nice.
Where was I? So, by the way, if you go to the top, one of the things I did since the last time, you go to event types. This is also still pretty chaotic, and go to touch. Then I actually added like a good replacement for the touch handling from Imba 1. And this one is much better in my opinion. It uses pointer events, and it kind of combines pointer down, pointer move, and pointer up into one coherent concept. So it's really easy. If you refresh again, I'm not sure why this REPL loader doesn't really work. And you can go down and see all the different examples, and it's extremely easy now to create like draggable elements. And so if you just try to drag something here,
nice.
this is actually all the code. And even though it probably looks cryptic, it makes sense after you read the documentation and understood how things work.
Yeah, like if you remember the aliases, everything here is like, yeah.
And it includes cool things like if you go down, I think I have an example for slider as well. It has some event modifiers, and one of them is fit. If you, no, just go to the bottom there, which makes it really easy to kind of, you transform the actual coordinates of the touch to a different coordinate space. So you can just, with a simple modifier there, you can actually convert the X or Y or both values of the pointer to something that makes sense in your reference frame.
Nice.
So if you see the pane with divider there, it's not that much code if you see it. And that is really all the code for a pane with the divider. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's a cool thing, yeah.
Cool. So is there anything else you'd like to highlight in the documentation?
Not that I remember right now. I've kind of paused documentation for a short while now to finally get the VS Code tooling working well again, and that includes fixing the whole Imba document parser thing. So I'm almost done with that. I hope to be able to release a new version of VS Code plugin this week that will be drastically more stable. But yeah.
So I haven't really been doing any documentation things because I've been busy with Scrimba bugs.
Yeah.
But have you talked with Eric, and has there been any changes?
Not in the last week or so. I think he's busy with his stuff. I think he's making some example applications. He has some questions from time to time, but I think his work on the documentation has kind of stopped up right now. And I guess that's okay since things are still changing so much. And I do think with the tab concept and the handbook, I do think we can eventually try to merge the guide stuff from Eric with the handbook. I think that makes sense. So yeah. Yeah,
that sounds good. So let's move on to the next topic, and that was suggested from Ilores, the Imba rollup. So Imba rollup, has that really seen any changes, or is that?
And it's kind of like it hasn't seen any changes. And in addition, I'm actually using Webpack for now, especially for Imba IO version 2. And so it's not really that flexible, and I'm kind of hesitant to spend much more time on it because I do think that Snowpack or Vite or some similar project is the way to go now, instead of doing the packing on the dev server as well. So one of the guys on the chat was working on the Snowpack implementation for Imba. And I think he was working on Snowpack for version 2 as well. I did actually one day try to sit down and look into it because I think it should be pretty easy. But I couldn't even get Snowpack to work for a simple create React or Svelte example. So it might be just my setup, but it was really buggy and gave all sorts of error messages just trying to run it. So
I still think we should try to like have Imba rollup as a supported way, because like, yeah, I don't use Imba rollup for everything right now. I am using Webpack for some projects because I'm doing some weird things with Node and reading files and writing out files. But I think like for general web applications, you won't be doing like, or maybe it's too general, but like I use Imba rollup in a couple of other projects, and there everything is client side. It works nicely. There's no node server involved. The live reloading works great. You even get the error message and all that.
Yeah, the question was if we want to allow all sorts of plugins, then we need to somehow find out how we can do that. Because right now, like Imba Rollup actually bundles Rollup itself and a bunch of plugins. So I'm not sure how you can install plugins from a different node modules directory and link them and all that stuff. But you could, we talked about this before, we could also support like just generating a rollup configuration from Imba Rollup and then let you use Rollup directly instead if you so want to.
Yeah, like in eject mode.
Yeah, or where we essentially like Imba rollup generates config or whatever, where it just creates a Snowpack config, rollup config that you can then modify yourself and use rollup directly.
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I looked at first at rollup. I like very much the hot module reloading aspect, but with rollup, it's to get that working, it needs to start a number of executable in the background, so it just slows everything down. And in that sense, the Imba rollup is much, much faster. So I thought maybe we can just reframe Imba rollup to be sort of a plugin. So I can just write a tiny little bit envelope JavaScript and launch Imba rollup from there. So that way I can just load up my own plugins and then extend the table that is in Imba rollup. I'm trying to do that right now for my own personal purpose, see if I progress with that. Maybe I can share it afterwards.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That sounds good. Do you have a repository on GitHub somewhere for it?
I have nothing. I'm just working on my own PC for the moment.
Yeah. Have any of you tried or looked into Vite, like the Snowpack alternative server from Avenue?
I haven't tried it, but I subscribe to Avenue's activity, so I see everything it does on GitHub. So I saw some early commits on it. It looks nice.
Yeah, because I haven't really started looking into it, but I do think it might be a cleaner alternative to Snowpack. And as opposed to Snowpack, it actually uses Rollup behind the scenes for the production build. It would be interesting to see how it deals with custom plugins and stuff for Rollup. I'm not sure it really supports them at all. But one cool thing is that both Vite and Snowpack are working on sort of a shared, like a standard API for hot module reloading. And Imba currently doesn't support that at all. So that's one of the things I do want to change. It should be easy for us to at least make sure that if only your styles change, then we can actually just inject and reload the styles without reloading the page in development mode. That would be really helpful. But more advanced HMR, where you essentially replace a single function and stuff, is further down the road, I think.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Maybe white can be pronounced vite, like the French for speedy.
Yeah, maybe that's how it's actually supposed to be pronounced, vite. Yeah, probably. So it could be interesting to look into it to see if that's a better path than Snowpack.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the next topic is the VS Code extension, and so what changed? Like I don't think you mentioned the changes.
So many problems with just the semantic highlighting didn't really use, like since the last release, VS Code has actually released a public semantic highlighting API that we can use for much faster and more consistent highlighting of variables and like, yeah, essentially just semantic highlighting. So that's something we need to convert to, I think. And we used a bunch of different ways to show the outline of the document and create um, the entities for full workspace, like go to symbol in workspace. It was just a huge mess, and it didn't really work consistently, especially because some parts of it used TypeScript. So it asked for the outline of the document, not from Imba or Imba document or anything. It asked from the compiled TypeScript version, and it was all just a mess. So I had to make the Imba document parser good enough to actually consistently identify the different entities and symbols in the document and stuff. So I'm going over to that so that we're a little less reliant on TypeScript or the TypeScript server, and then just fixing a bunch of other bugs. One thing I won't be able to do this time is to clean up the actual TM language syntax highlighting file, which is also a big mess and could probably be simplified a lot. But that will have to wait for another release, I think.
Nice. That sounds good. So, but like, so some of the bugs I've seen is for example, the auto completion when you are importing a tag, the path is wrong. Have you fixed that?
No, I can see if I'll manage to fix that in the same go, but.
And how about like if you're working in a V1 code base, so you're in, for example, Scrimba code base, will it work better now with the V1?
That's something we should discuss. I'm actually inclined to go the other way, because that's one of the issues here, that it's really messy to have multiple different highlighters and different grammars and stuff to try to differentiate between the two. So I do think it probably makes more sense to release an update of to the old Imba 1 VS Code thing, and eventually like have two different VS Code plugins, because yeah, it's difficult to make both of them work nicely in a single package.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, but that will get better when again, I've delayed that for a long time, but relatively soon. I think we're not that far from hitting beta. And when we hit beta, I think we should quickly release Imba 1 as an actual separate NPM package that is called Imba 1, and that works with Imba 1 extensions for files. And then so that will make it a lot easier, like the Scrimba code base and other people who have things in production could then just rename their files to Imba 1 and then go over to using the Imba 1 NPM module instead. That will make it much easier to eventually like migrate things to Imba 2 and allow Imba 1 and Imba 2 code at the same time in the same project.
Because yeah, so let me just make sure I understood it. So V1 becomes a new package, Imba V1 or Imba 1 or whatever.
Just Imba 1, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Imba 1.
Yeah.
And then Imba, the regular package, becomes everything that is V2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Then everyone who's really using Imba moving forward will be using the V2.
Yeah, I think they're so different. Like, you would obviously never ever do this kind of thing when you're developing a huge popular language, but Imba 1 hasn't been popular, and we have learned a ton since in the last 7 years or so since we really started using Imba 1 in big projects. So I've kind of taken the shot I had to change up the things I really thought was necessary to change and improve. And the result has been that there are so many breaking changes that it it's really difficult to migrate a big code base from Imba 1 to Imba 2. And that's, yeah, that kind of sucks, but at the same time, I think it's the right decision. So I just hope we can, as soon as possible, get V2 to a beta stage at least, so that we can try to move people over there and start improving the documentation. And yeah.
I see. So who is drawing on my screen?
Nice point.
Yeah. So I think like I don't have any opinion on that. I really don't care, to be honest, because like I'll continue using Imba, like the regular package, and I'm gonna abandon V1 as soon as I can, like on all my projects. But I'm worried about Scrimba, like there's so much code, and but that's off topic here. We don't really need to discuss that. But like, I think it's good, yeah, for the Scrimba code base, it's good to have a dedicated Imba 1 packages, because then we can have security updates, whatever we need, really changes that are independent of the main track.
Yeah.
And the main track doesn't really have to affect the stable track or legacy track, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the most important priorities of Imba 2 is obviously to port the Imba 1 code, no, the Scrimba code base. And even though it will take time, it's going to be a really valuable lesson, like to work out the last kinks and because there are some things that are still yet to be really production quality in Imba 2. One of them is server-side rendering. Like it works, but when we
no, does it work at all? Like I'm very skeptical that it even works, to be honest.
It does work, but it's kind of pretty half-assed. Like it works when you do it exactly the way it's intended to be done. But again, even though it works, many of the concepts don't really work at all. Like how do you do consistent hydration, dehydration? How do you include the data that you used on the server? How do you possibly just awaken and re-render some of the components on the client? How do you just deliver a static site?
Yeah. The static site part is really interesting. Like, for example, in one app I was working on just for fun, I have like a Express endpoint, and it's an Imba project, and I just want to render just a nice looking page, which is an error message page, right? It's just a server-side render page. And I think as soon as I started using the new CSS syntax, everything just broke. Like converting to HTML thing, just you get weird error messages, and
and that's one of the things, like that. As to be honest, that includes client-side stuff as well. We don't have a good production pipeline for packaging the styles separately from the code files, etc. And that's also one of the things I think will solve when we start porting Scrimba or some other project that really needs these types of features. So we should definitely get onto that as soon as possible, but I just need to finish a few more like basic important building blocks.
Yeah. So do you think like the server-side rendered stuff, like to get that working really well, should be tackled after a potential beta release or after a release?
I think it should be tackled after a beta release, to be honest, but not after a final release. Or maybe, I'm not sure that SSR is the most important, but it's at least important to make the styles work with static pages and with bundling, like make that efficient and good.
Yeah, I think it would be like, it's not that terrible if we don't have it, but it would be awesome if we had it, because like the stuff you already can do is amazing, but like if you can also like serve that server-side rendered, you get all of the benefits of search engine optimization, and you can just generally have a much faster site for the bits that don't need to be like you're not doing anything on the client side.
Yeah, it's true. And since we're using web components, there are really cool opportunities with SSR where we can actually like serve static pages and just awaken and make a few of the components interactive, just automatic.
Yeah, so that's actually pretty cool from in the documentation. You've started, or it's a while since now, but you've documented more of the life cycle of the tags. So where is that?
It's extremely messy. I think it's in components and lifecycle right now.
Components and then lifecycle. So I had no idea there were so many different, but like which ones are new in Imba 2 and weren't present in Imba 1?
So hydrate and dehydrate are new.
Nice.
Awaken is actually new as well, I think. Yeah, the way awake. There was something called Awaken in Imba 1, but Awaken is new in the sense that now it's just the first time you mount, it will also call Awaken. And rendered, and there are a bunch of other new things with render and tick and commit, but those are pretty advanced concepts. So I don't expect people to really override or use those at all. But they are valuable when you know, when you understand how things work. Then there are, yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, so setup is not being documented. It's not documented. Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna add that. And there are some things we're not exposing now, but that are really cool with the new way we compile the tag trees. Then you essentially in render and commit and all these methods, you can essentially get an argument that is a bit mask that contains information about whether any class names changed during this render on the tag itself, or whether any properties change from the outside, and details like that we get for free now with the new way we compile tags.
Nice.
Yeah, but again, the documentation, I'm looking forward to get to a point where you can say that now we are going to clean up the documentation, because as I worked on it and shuffled things around, it's almost like writing a book and then at the whim starting to reorganize the chapters and move sections from here to there at arbitrary times. Then it ends up really messy. Like suddenly it's like, why? It makes no sense that this section is there and this section is here.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't really looked at that structure. What I do usually now is I just jump to styles and I usually ignore everything else. And then I keep switching between here. You see this part, the reference part?
Yeah.
I think that's the one that's currently providing me with the most value. Like I go in there and then I check.
I think that one should be changed to something much more akin to the events modifiers page, where we have small examples for all the style modifiers as well, like the same kind of stuff, and also make it searchable really easily.
Yeah, the search would be really, really nice. At least then you could just enter or type enter and then go straight to where it was.
It is actually really cool. Like all the documentation is still just markdown, but I've also changed how the markdown is parsed. So now there are, like, every subsection is an actual section with subsections and stuff. And all these examples are marked and registered as, like, all the boxes you see here are actually registered as event modifier concepts with their own sections. So we can expose those all throughout the documentation in really cool ways.
Nice. I haven't really looked at the markdown to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds very cool.
Yeah. Cool.
So the next topic is the Scrimba course.
Yeah.
So is that something you want to start thinking about now, or like I'm hoping we can have an official Scrimba course this year, but
yeah, this year I totally agree, but right now I don't feel that I have that much time to think about it, really.
Yeah.
And it's pretty difficult when you don't even know what to teach because things are still changing.
Yeah, but we should really not, like, I've been thinking about it. We shouldn't just go to the documentation and then do a copy paste. We should really try to sit down and make the best Imba V2 course possible. And like something that is like, if you look at Kevin's course,
Yeah.
If you look at Bob's course, those are really high quality boot camps. I'm not saying we should make a boot camp, but we should definitely, the bar is really high if we want to make a high quality Scrimba course.
I definitely agree, but that's kind of the problem as well, because you know me, and when we start doing that, then I will obviously really quickly go into state management and see that, oh, we need to finish up the open source version of the state management stuff from GitSpeak, and then I end up spending 2 months on that instead, and yeah, those kinds of, because to create a really high quality Scrimba course for Imba, not just about creating a high quality course, it is actually about having an ecosystem and libraries and things that are good enough to be able to create a good example application, let's say. And and that is difficult right now. Like, there are still no, it's not that like state management isn't important in Imba when it comes to the rendering, but it is important to have a good model layer or a good preferred way to do data stuff in your applications.
Yeah, so, but like I think there's definitely room for ambiguity there. You don't really need to define everything. If you look at Kevin's bootcamp, you can see he has a fine line where what he's trying to teach you are just core stuff you can take. You can use that vanilla. You can use that for regular static websites, or you can use that in something like React, Svelte, or Imba. But it's like he's teaching you the concepts. And I think we could do that the same way with Imba, where if we have good applications and just decide on what is being introduced when, and then have like a rød tråd, a red thread that goes through. Yeah, I think we can make a really good course. I think it's gonna require a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because like we don't need to have a big ecosystem to cover like good applications. It's just to introduce the concepts, because you have the basic building blocks. You can manipulate markup in Imba. You can manipulate the styles, and just highlight those parts.
Yeah.
While introducing them.
Yeah.
So like I think we should definitely wait for an actual release before like making a course, because what I'm worried about with, if we start, like I don't even know like what has happened with the previous Imba changelogs. Do they work now, or
they still work in on Scrimba, I think, but that's most, like, they will always work the recording, but they have changed, the syntax has changed so much. Like the first changelogs for Imba 2, we didn't even have implicit self, and we had a whole different syntax for variables, and so those won't work. They're not actually good for learning about Imba now, and we should record more, obviously. Then we need to I need to get through a lot of things.
Yeah, I see. So like if we think like so I know we shouldn't like push the release date too much, but like do you think it's realistic to do a release around September, November time, or do you think it's closer to October?
I think at least a beta release, but I've been wrong so many times about it at the same time as the scope has increased, as it often does. But I definitely like the Imba IO is actually working now. I have been developing a lot of stuff in Imba 2 now. It's, for me, it's already working fantastically, but the tooling and there are things that remain. But yeah, I think sometime after like in maybe even late August for a good beta with good documentation. You know, we have a lot of other things we've been doing also at Scrimba, and I have a son, and I have he isn't in kindergarten yet, but he's starting into kindergarten this August. So hopefully things will get a little smoother relatively soon, and that will allow me to focus more on this as well.
Yeah, so maybe we should revisit this in maybe September.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't think we should rush it before that. Like, but I definitely agree that we should obviously create a high quality Scrimba course. Scrimba was originally created to teach people Imba, and it's about time that we get to do that.
I think that would be a good introduction to the course. Like that's the first thing being said in the course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So the last topic is the bi-weekly newsletter that was never published. So there's not really much to say about that.
To be honest, I just found it because, as I mentioned to you, I didn't think you really sent it to me. And I searched my inbox, but I just couldn't find it. But I did find it earlier today, and it looks good. Like it would be really cool to start releasing them, I think. But then,
yeah. So what I'm thinking with regards to the newsletter is like it's going to be easier for people who are interested and who don't want to open Discord. To be honest, I don't really like opening Discord. Now it's better, but it was worse a month ago or two. It's like so many Discord channels, so many messages, and I see unread messages too right now too. It's like I want to close Discord. So and also for the people who are not following the Twitter account, we aren't really posting actively. It would be nice for those who are interested.
Definitely.
Up. And then we could also monitor the Imba ecosystem and then include projects in there which are relevant, like Bohuslav, for example. He made this Bible app, which was very cool. And there are probably more people making stuff with Imba, and we have no idea about it. Yeah. So the newsletter would be a way to let you know about what's happening with Imba itself, and also what's happening in the surrounding ecosystem that's growing. It's slow, but it's growing. Yeah, and he says here, so it is difficult, right, to go through the changelog. It's like 1 hour recording, and I should get better at summarizing them, maybe. To maybe
but
like
the main problem is, as he said, that a lot has changed.
Yeah, but if we had like this small drip with the bi-weekly newsletter, it would have been easier.
Yeah.
So maybe we could. I don't know how we would go through like what has changed, because like I have no idea. Like there's so many changes, like no one knows, or maybe you have a good overview, but
I barely know it. There are more.
Well, I'm going through the commits to see the changes.
Yeah. And a lot of them doesn't really, like, some of them are not really well grouped and
yeah, for example, like one thing I saw a while back was you added an alias for the do keyword. Do you know that one?
That one
was sorry.
I forgot to remove that. That was just the experimentation, I think. But yeah.
I thought it was cool. I started using it on one computer. I thought, this looks nice.
Until I understood that this shortcut for it does only exist on Mac. Because on Mac it's great. You can actually just do Option F and then you get the function symbol.
Like this.
Yeah. But since that doesn't work on Windows and Linux, I think it's probably more annoying than good.
Yeah, so we're gonna fire off the newsletter then. Let's make some adjustments. I also sent it to Per in case he had any feedback.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you had no issues with the current issue or the first draft. So I'm gonna tweet it out later, and then hopefully we get some subscribers, and then we could build up the list both for the course later and also for for getting news out. At least the beta would be nice to get really battle tested. I actually do have some new bugs. I'm not gonna dwell on them right now, but I'm gonna try to create them isolated, because these are actually very weird bugs. It's like it's rendering bugs, like where if you have two divs, then the next div will be like just a little bit slightly indented, or it would just be moved a little bit in the view.
That sounds really weird. So I could, I love to look into that, but I do think there are some, I found some really weird edge cases with rendering bugs that I haven't fixed that I'm not sure if were part of the last release. But since you talk about like essentially styling, I don't think this would fix that. So, but
No,
hopefully at least post some screenshots and some code into the GitHub repo. So
yeah. I promise I'll follow up. It's very easy. What I'm gonna do is I have the tags. I just need to create a new project, and
okay.
then I'll double check with the latest Imba.
Yeah.
So our Imba V2 version.
Yeah.
I had one more topic which I forgot. Yeah, I totally forgot the topic. Like I had something on the top of my head. Maybe I'll remember it. Is there anything else, Eloris and Bohuslav? Are there anything else, things you want to ask about or that wasn't covered?
Yeah, in the documentation, I spotted a couple of minor mistakes or things that are not quite working well. I can start documenting that and eventually proposing some changes to that. I mean, I can work on the documentation, that's not a problem. Second question I have is about publicity and roadmap. Do you have any plans to increase a bit the publicity of Imba?
Yeah, definitely have plans for that because I do think that when version 2 reaches a mature enough stage, I really think it deserves a place among the top tier frameworks and languages out there. But right now, I don't want to focus on that prematurely until I know that it works okay. Like right now, the experience is so shitty. Even getting started with Imba 2 is a miracle if you can get it started. Like I tried to download the hello like the Imba template just 2 days ago, and the rollup command didn't even run. Like there are so many problems, and the documentation is all over the place. So I don't want to really kickstart the publicity until at least the basics are good enough. But I'm kind of a perfectionist as well, so I might not be the person to judge when they are good enough. So I would love input, and also I would love help on the documentation, obviously.
Good, perfect.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So please create GitHub issues if you see stuff in the documentation.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining. It's really awesome. So we'll talk later, and I'll try to answer more stuff on Discord when you run into the problems that you will run into.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to remember the thing I wanted to ask about, but I don't know how it's for you with vacation now, but are you here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm going to a cabin on Wednesday, and from Sunday and on, I think I will have essentially full days of work. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the next we'll try to have a new meeting in 2 weeks then, if that works. Or if it doesn't work, just let me know and then we'll reschedule.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Cool. If there's nothing else, then we should wrap up.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.